It was just a barrel behind an abandoned mill until a dead lion turned up inside. But when one man tried to find out how it got there, he uncovered something so twisted it shook the whole town to its core. You won't believe what came next. I've seen some weird things out in the sticks, but this one slapped me across the face like a wet mop. It was just after 6 in the morning, fog still thick as mashed potatoes, when I rolled down the dirt road behind the old grain mill. I was dropping off feed at the Wildlife Rehab Center. Regular Monday, or so I thought. Then I smelled it. Rot. Not roadkill rot. Not, oops, someone left chicken out overnight rot. No. This was heavy, sharp, almost metallic, and it was coming from a rusted out barrel dumped behind the chain link fence. Now, listen, I'm not the nosy neighbor type, but I've been volunteering at the rehab center for 9 years. I've seen broken deer legs, orphaned coyote pups, a hawk with one wing, and enough trauma to write a memoir. But this, something told me to lift that lid. So I did, and I wished I hadn't. A lion. A full-grown African lion, curled up like someone tried to stuff it in like dirty laundry. Grimy fur, bent paws, one eye half open, frozen in this eerie piece that didn't belong in a rusted barrel behind an abandoned warehouse. And here's the part that really boiled my blood. He was clean. No bullet holes, no blood, no sign of a struggle, just dumped like last week's garbage. "Are you freaking kidding me?" I whispered, even though no one was around. I stood there for a good minute, not because I was shocked, not anymore, not after seeing what people do to wild animals. I stood there because I felt something twist in my gut, something that said, this ain't over. So I did what any half-decent human being would do. I went back to my truck, grabbed an old blanket from the back, and pulled that lion out with both arms. You ever carried 400 pounds of dead weight that used to be royalty? It's not easy, but he deserved better than to rot alone in a barrel. When I rolled up to the wildlife center with a lion in my truck bed, Sarah, the head vet, looked like she saw a ghost. "Is that, yep, alive? Nope." "Where the hell did you get a lion, John?" I told her, every word. Her face tightened with every sentence. "He's been kept in captivity," she muttered, examining the paws. "See this? Worn claws, pacing in a cage, and what is this?" She pointed to a faint ring around his neck. A collar mark. Someone owned him, or thought they did. That's when I felt it. That slow, simmering anger that starts behind your eyes and crawls down your spine. Not the flashy kind, the cold, heavy kind that sticks. Someone treated this lion like a prop, and then tossed him like a broken lawn chair when they were done. I wasn't letting it slide. Not this time. He didn't have a name, so I gave him one. Leo. Yeah, I know. Not original, but he was more lion than any of us had a right to bury. That night, I sat on my porch with a cheap cup of coffee and a head full of questions. How does a lion end up dead in a barrel in upstate Missouri? Who puts a living, breathing king of the wild behind bars and then buries him in silence? You ever get that itch in your brain, the kind you can't scratch with logic or reason? That's where I was. I didn't care if it got messy. I didn't care if people told me to mind my business. I was already in it, up to the elbows. And whatever I was about to find, I had the feeling it wouldn't be pretty. What happened next changed everything. You do not want to miss how this story unfolds. It's only getting darker from here. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that lion curled up like a forgotten suitcase. Next morning, I called in a favor. You don't spend 10 years rescuing wildlife without making a few connections. And I had one at the Regional Wildlife Lab. Dr. Mark Miller, biologist with a temper shorter than a firecracker fuse. Mark didn't bother with small talk. Never did. I showed up at his lab with Leo in the back of my truck. We unwrapped the tarp. He gave one long, low whistle. "Where'd you find this?" "In a barrel behind a grain mill," I said. "Want to guess how many lions live naturally in this part of Missouri?" He shot me a look that said, "Don't start." Within 20 minutes, we had Leo on the table. Gloves on, lights overhead. Silence except for latex snapping and equipment humming. Mark ran his hands down the ribcage, checking ligaments and bones. Then he froze. "You seeing this?" he muttered. I leaned in. The skin around Leo's neck was rubbed raw, just under the mane, a perfect circle. Collar burn. But not just that. There were tiny punctures on his back legs, syringe marks, multiple. "This lion wasn't just kept," Mark said. "He was drugged, probably sedated long term. You see this on exotic pets, or worse, illegal breeders." And there it was. The thing I didn't want confirmed but already knew in my gut. Someone owned him. Someone kept him like a backyard novelty. And when he got too much, they didn't call for help. They dumped him. Now, here's where things got really interesting. Mark lifted Leo's upper lip, squinted. He's chipped. What? Microchip. Probably for tracking. If we scan it, we might find who imported him. So we scanned. And what popped up wasn't a name or address, it was a series of numbers, connected to a supplier in Florida. Name flagged, under federal investigation. Let me tell you something. When the system knows and still nothing gets done, that's not negligence. That's policy. You think the story would have hit the news by now, right? A dead lion, smuggled, chipped, tossed like trash? Think again. Nobody wanted to touch it. I sent photos, video, reports. Silence, no callbacks. One editor replied, too risky, no official comment. And that's when the phone rang. Block number. A man's voice, calm, too calm. Stop asking questions, John. Click, that's it. No threat, no shouting, just a quiet little whisper designed to crawl under your skin and stay there. They knew my name. They knew I was digging, and they weren't planning to let it get further. That night, I double locked every door. Not because I was scared, because I was angry. There's a difference. Fear keeps you small. Anger gets things done. I went back to the barrel site with a flashlight and camera. Dug around. Trash, oil cans, burnt tire remains. And then, buried under gravel, a broken chain link collar. Still had some lion fur caught in the hinge. Proof. Physical evidence. Next morning, I took everything. The collar, the chip number, the lab report, and drove to the sheriff's office. I laid it all out. You know what the deputy said? Sounds like a federal issue. Not much we can do. That was it. Shrug. Cup of coffee. Go home, John. Let someone else deal with it. But there was no someone else. Just me. And a lion with no voice. This is the climax. Everything you've waited for? It's right on the edge. Stay with me. You're about to see what happens when the wrong man gets pushed too far. 3 days. That's how long I waited. 3 days of silence, phone off the hook, neighbors giving me that, you okay? Stare. And on day 4, I got coordinates. No message, just a drop pin. Deep in the woods, north of Highway 6, middle of nowhere. I knew a setup when I saw one, but I wasn't walking away. If someone out there was stashing lions like garden gnomes, I had to see it for myself. I loaded up my truck, took nothing but my phone, camera, and a pair of bolt cutters. Left a note with Sarah at the rehab center. If I'm not back by sundown, call everyone with a badge. She didn't laugh, neither did I. The pin led me to an old dirt road that looked like it hadn't seen a tire in years. Half a mile in, I hit the tree line. The smell hit first. Same sharp, sour rot I'd smelled at that barrel, only stronger. And underneath it, faint but real, I heard breathing. Not human. Low, ragged. I crept around a bend and froze. There they were. 4 lions. Thin, half-starved, locked in makeshift pens built from scrap metal and fencing. Mud everywhere. Buckets of green water. Not a single soul in sight. I pulled out my phone and started filming. Slow. Careful. Every cage, every lion, every wound. One of them, a young female, locked eyes with me. No roar, no panic. Just a stare. Like she knew I wasn't here to hurt her. Like she was waiting. That's when the shouting started. 2 men burst out of a shed behind the pens, armed with crowbars and the kind of attitude you only get when you think the world's too lazy to stop you. You lost, cowboy? One of them growled. I didn't answer. I just kept filming. The other guy lunged, tried to grab the phone. Bad move. I ducked, rolled, and booked it toward my truck. Got the door shut just as one of them slammed his tool into the side mirror. The footage was uploading in real time. I made sure of that. Backup cloud, satellite push, the whole deal. You want to threaten me? Fine. But once it's out there, you can't unring the bell. By the time I made it back to town, I had 20 missed calls. Sarah, the lab, even the sheriff's office. The same folks who told me not much we can do. Now they were singing a different tune. Federal agents are involved, they said. Yeah, no kidding. Turned out the site was one of several under quiet investigation, but they didn't have enough to act. My footage? That was the nail in the coffin. The raid happened 2 days later. Full force, trucks, cages, flashlights, agents in jackets that actually meant something. They pulled every lion out, shut the place down, and hauled the operators away in cuffs. And here's the twist. The main guy, the one with the crowbar, was already on probation. He'd been warned, fined, given every excuse to stop, but no one followed through. until Leo showed up in that barrel. I stood on the edge of the field, watching as they lifted the last lion into the transport trailer. The young female I saw in the cage looked back once. Just once. That look, that was the real ending. Not the arrest, not the press. That look, like she'd finally been heard. Like someone out there still gave a damn. And if you're thinking this is a story about a dead lion, you're missing it. This was about all of them. Every animal locked up behind someone's ego. Every voice ignored. Every system that shrugs until it's forced to act. Leo didn't die for nothing. He dragged the whole thing into the light. And me, I'm no hero. I'm just a guy who saw something wrong and didn't sit down. Sometimes that's all it takes.